Hey everyone, it is Hunter Fireflower, and in today's video, I will be giving you a review and summary of Star Wars Dawn of the Jedi Force War number 2. So in the previous one, we saw that Daegen, and Xesh were leading the Jihadi forces against the Infinite Empire, and we learned that Skal'nas is trying to capture one of the Infinity Gates, which is on Typhan, so he can strengthen the Force within the Rakata and be able to teleport anywhere in the galaxy. So I guess we are going to see what is going to happen there, and from the comic, I'm guessing we are actually going to see Trill reveal her spy nature to Xesh, and they will probably get into a fight, maybe? I don't know. So we will find out in today's video. So without further ado, let's begin. We first start off this comic with Xesh having this nightmare. We see him basically falling, and we see the Rakata, and everything is kind of swirly and creepy looking, and he wakes up from this nightmare, and he is in the same tent as Shae, and Shae's like, "You're having another nightmare again, I'm here, calm yourself." And Xesh goes on to basically say, I fear I'm going to betray the Jedi, I used to work for the Rakata as their force hound, they might somehow bring me back to the Rakata Empire, I don't want that. And Shae reassures him and is like, you're not going to go back to the Rakata Empire, and I'll make sure of that because I love you. And Xesh is like, I love you too, type of thing. And then Xesh tells her his actual name, which I believe it's Tau, T-A-U. I'm not sure if that's how you pronounce it. It then goes on to say, in my native tongue, that means soul. And they have this little moment where it's like, oh, heart and soul. And then they make out and they do other stuff. We then go to the fortress of Ro, the Baron's fortress, and we have all the Jihadi over here talking, and we have Tasha, who is now a seer of the Jedi, and she gets these visions of the future and the present of what's actually going on, and she's like, I see the Rakata on this fortress, on this cliff, we have to figure out where they are going to be. And Rajavari is like, we have to come up with a battle plan of how we're going to take them out of the Typhan system. And Xesh is like, I actually have a great idea. If we just kill skal'nas, the other sub-Pradors would actually fight for his spot as the leader or general of the Rakata Empire. And so they will just eat each other out and they will leave the Typhan system. And all the Jedi are like, oh, that's a great idea, let's just do that real fast. But the problem is they actually don't know where Skal'nas is. And Xesh is like, give me a second, I'm going to meditate and delve into the dark side of the Force. And I'm going to actually find what Skal'nas is. He does this, and he's like, they're at this specific spot of Skal'gora. We then cut over to Skal'nas having this feast, and you see him eating these like gross, giant, juicy grub things, and he has the head of some animal, and he's got like ribs over here, and he's got this green thing that looks like a mop or something. I don't know what that looks like, but it looks like something, and he's over here stuffing his face with food, and it's just very gluttonous looking, and it kind of just reflects to you that the Rakata Empire are so vast and huge that people can just literally feast all day, apparently. I mean, he has like this servant serving him all this food. It just kind of shows the difference between the Jedi and the Rakata. And the Rakata are this giant, glorious empire. Meanwhile, the Jedi are more humble. So Skal'nas is over here talking to Trill on this hologram image, and he's like, I think you are siding with the Jihadi. You haven't actually been doing that much for us. I think you're betraying us. You have to show your loyalty to me. And Trill just assures him and is like, I am loyal to the Infinite Empire. I'll give you what you want. I will make the Jedi go attack you, and we will set this trap to kill them all. So the Jedi are preparing their forces to attack the Rakata on Skal'gora, and we get this kind of interesting viewpoint of Daegen. And what I find the most interesting is that it actually says that this is part of the holocron of Daegen. So I'm not sure, is he making the holocron while this entire battle is going on, or while this entire conflict is going on, or is this something that happened, post? I'm assuming he's making his holocron while this is happening. But he's talking about how Skal'gora is this planet of harmony and how nature always rules. It's always the one in charge. Even though humanity has built cities and towns and everything in it, nature will always take its hold. And he goes on to say, even though the Rakata in this terrible evilness has conquered this planet, in the end, it will always return back to balance. And we see the Jihadi blowing up the planet to decimate the Rakata forces because this is their base of operation. In Daegen, for the first time in this comic, we actually see him show some type of empathy. And he goes on to question, is it right for us to destroy the balance and harmony of this planet? Because we know it's going to restore itself in time. And we see him kind of doubting this war. You know, we saw him before where he was this glory-hungry hound. He always wanted to have this conflict. He wanted to rule the Jihadi. And we see him stepping back, and he knows that the Force is going to balance things out. And even though this planet was in harmony and peace, and now there's a conflict going on with the Rakata and this evil, in the end, it's going to end up back into balance. And so we see him questioning whether the Jihadi should actually destroy this planet just to get rid of the Rakata. The Jihadi forces then begin the assault on Skal'gora, and they're going to attack the Rakata. They have them surrounded. It looks like they're going to win. But as this is going on, Tasha's like, you know, this is not right. This is actually a trap. And then we see tons of Rakata forces come out of like these tunnels and out of everywhere, every nook and cranny of the entire planet. And they start to decimate the Jihadi. It is not looking good for them. Everyone is dropping like flies, and Seknos actually gets captured during this conflict. And while the Jihadi are getting decimated, Xesh is reflecting on himself as well as the Jihadi, and he's like, you know, how do they know that we were going to be here? There must be a spy amongst our ranks, and I'm pretty sure he knows who it is. While this fight is continuing, we have Shae on Butch, the Rancor dragon, and she's over here slaying Force Hound after Force Hound, and she's always angry, and we see the dark side starting to control her, and we see this with every character that has a Force Saber. The dark side is always going to win when you have this Force Saber. They're not used to this kind of dark side energies. Meanwhile, Xesh is. We see Master Quan Jang come up, and he's like, you know, you need to find balance. And Shae's like, I can't find balance, you know, while we're fighting, you know, you do you. And this just reiterates what we saw in the previous volume where Master Quan Jang is like, you know, I fear Shae Kota is going to fall to the dark side. And maybe we're going to see her actually fall to the dark side towards the end of this comic, but I feel like she would somehow go back in balance. I'm not quite sure, but it's going to be interesting to see how her character develops through the rest of this series. We then see Trill looking around the battlefield, looking for Xesh, and I'm assuming she's going to try and lure him into some trap or kill him in some regard. She's working for the Rakata, and Xesh is the one that's actually kind of turning the tide towards the Jihadi, and she has to somehow take him out. She then looks behind her and she sees Xesh and she fires at him, but it's actually just kind of this like forced operation ghost thing that I'm assuming Xesh made, because he then just grabs her by the neck and is like, hey, who are you firing at? You know, were you firing at me? I know you're not strong on the Force, you know, what were you firing at? And she just tries to like, you know, brush it off as, you know, oh, I thought you were a flesh raider, I'm sorry. And then on Zesh's face, you can kind of tell that he does not trust Trill at all, but he kind of knows that he's better than her in every regard. I mean, in terms of combat, that is, at least. And so he's like, you know, you should not be alone, you know, you're not strong on the Force, these flesh raiders will rip you apart. You're gonna come with me and we're going to investigate some of these tunnels, which the Rakata have built. And one thing that's interesting is Trill is this type of character where whoever is in charge or in power, she tries to use her flirtatious nature to try and get them on her side. So she always calls Xesh handsome and, oh, you're such a strong man, you're my knight in shining armor, you're going to save me. But we know that she is just putting on this whole act to get him on her side. As they go deeper and deeper and deeper into these tunnels, they start to hear this electricity humming machine sounds, and we see what we feared what was going to happen. We see the Matrix coffin things, you know how like in the Matrix how all the people were like hooked up in the machines and those like pod things. The Rakata do the same thing, and we saw this when Xesh was recalling his like darkest memories. And what the Rakata are doing is whenever they capture the Jedi, they're putting them into these little tube things, and they're basically using some type of electricity to like put them in extreme pain so that they can collect their anger through the Force or something, which is used to power up the entire fleet. And then we see Seknos in one of these tubes, and I'm wondering is like, you know, 5 pages ago we saw him getting wrecked, and then he's already in a tube? Like, how long have they been going down this tunnel? I mean, it was literally, he was fighting, and then all of a sudden he's in the tube already. And Xesh goes on, and he's like, this is why we fight the Rakata Empire, Trill. These are evil people, you know, this is what we're trying to stop. And Trill's like, you know, oh, that's nice, you know. She then uses some type of force lightning. I'm assuming it's through her hand because I don't see any like taser thing or anything. And she knocks Xesh out, and I'm wondering what she is going to do with him. I'm assuming she's going to bring him before skal'nas. Maybe skal'nas is going to do some type of mind control thing and bring Xesh on the Rakata Empire side again. I don't know. I don't think they're going to put him in one of these tubes though, because that kind of seems like a waste of resources. But maybe they will, but we will find out in the next comic. But anyways, guys, that is it for this video. I hoped you enjoyed the video. If you want to see the rest of this comic book series, please subscribe to my channel and hit the bell notification. I'll be publishing the entire series, so if you want to see what actually happens in the end, please stay tuned. But anyways, guys, that is it for this one. I will see you in the next one. Stay frosty.